And welcome back to another edition of Official Word Sports. I'm Vince, and I'm here with my co-host, Stevie D. Stevie D, we are almost at the halfway mark, right?
God, it's going so fast.
It is. It is. Actually, we would be at the halfway mark if they wouldn't have messed with the schedule.
Aren't we almost there? Like, because week 9 starts in 24 hours, right? So I think we're really there at the halfway mark, right?
So the trade deadline was the midway, right? Yeah, no, it does it. You know, we wait all this time. We go through all these weeks of anticipation, and lo and behold, here we are. We are sitting at the midway point. For some teams, it's over. Yeah. Some teams have already chalked it up. It's interesting to see and to hear some of the teams in their rationale, right? And you know, we said we were going to talk about the trade deadline. Why don't we just move that right to the top of the list, right? Because you look at some of the deals, and like, for example, the Chicago Bears. What do you do in Chicago?
Right. A second rounder for Chase Claypool?
Well, I mean, that to me, that's a steal, but
I don't think so. I think they overpaid for Chase Claypool as a second rounder.
Well, it's still a top wide receiver. Really never flourished there in Pittsburgh, but you're getting away. You're known for defense, and you give up 2 key cogs to your defense in less than a week. I mean, I don't get that. How are you selling that? And so I guess what they're saying is we're going to forego the defense, and we're going to try to put the assets and the weapons to Justin Fields and put it on the offensive side of the ball. But it also means that, you know, what was keeping you in games, now you've weakened that. That offense isn't ready to dominate games, right? They're not at the position where they can throw up 40 points because now the defense is going to give up 40 points, right? So you got to score 41. I don't like the move there, right? And if you're going to rebuild, just say you're going to rebuild.
Well, I think Roquan Smith was a foregone conclusion. He was out in Chicago. I know he wasn't happy to be there and everything like that. So I thought that was a foregone conclusion. I don't know where he was in the free agency at the end of the year type of deal. So you trade him to get something before he walks or whatnot.
Now you keep him. This is the guy only when he came in, he was the guy that was on the holdout over the language in his contract. Right? It wasn't that he was a malcontent. But it was.
No, he's come out and said he doesn't want to be here. He's already came out and said it this year. He wants out. So,
if I am, I'll be honest with you though. If I am the Bears, I strengthen and continue to add to what is my strength, and then continue to try to put the pieces around Justin Fields to make him successful. Right now they're going in the opposite direction. It's almost like they don't have a good sense of direction as to how to build that team. And you see that so often with teams in the league. Now, I will tell you, switching to the other side, at the end of the day, the Miami Dolphins for Trey Lance have parlayed that into 3 stud players. Yeah, and you have to look at it that way. They just used one of those picks for Bradley Chubb. They used one of those picks for Tyreek Hill, and they used the other one for Jalen Waddle. All that for Trey Lance. And Trey Lance still is not the starting quarterback for the 49ers. Still is not that guy. So
I can't talk about that team. I can't stand that team. And I hope bad things happen over there. So I think they're all crappy trades, and the heck with them.
But as your duty as a unbiased,
it's all about that right there, baby.
You can still be unbiased journalist. No. Your duty, but still, I mean, you have to look at it. The Bradley Chubb one, I was surprised. Again, looking at Denver, what are you doing?
I don't know. You gave up a first rounder for a guy that's hitting free agency at the end of the year.
Hey, Dana, our chief marketing officer. And yes, Dana, I did read the email. But
you traded a first rounder for a guy that's out at the end of the year. So you better hope you can retain him. Or you give up a lot for a short-term rental.
Obviously, that's the goal, right? Is that you're going to be able to keep him. But it also means that you're pushing all your chips into the center of the table, right? It also means that you guys are afraid of the Bills. That's what that means. You're trying to come after us. But, just like John Gotti, we're the Teflon Dons, baby. Yeah. Well, I could go like, well, no, I'll leave it at that.
Well, the mafia den, right? You got to use the John Gotti did,
So it works out really well with that. Absolutely. There were some other deals, and obviously, Bills Mafia was waiting on pins and needles. Who were we going to get? I was a big proponent not to mess with the running game unless you got, just A-list type running back. And I put Kareem Hunt in that category. Didn't want Alvin Kamara. Christian McCaffrey, even though that trade had already been made, I was not really for Christian McCaffrey, right? He now has to improve that he can stay healthy, right? After all the injuries that he's had. So giving up too much for that, I didn't want to mess with that. They ended up with Nyheim Hines out of Indy. And I'm okay with that pick or that trade. You traded Zach Moss, who basically has been inactive for the last few weeks, right? And you have James Cook. I'm just curious where they're going to use him, how they're going to use him. Now, this kid is fast. Right? So that adds that dimension there. Just not the way that I would do it, right? I'm drawing it up. Again, I like the bigger backs, right? Give me a little bit more of a power running game, especially, I don't always need to have Josh doing a quarterback sneak, right? I'd rather hand it off, to a bigger back and let him go. But the one thing that I needed and I asked for, and that was to get some safety help, right? Micah Hyde gone for the year. Then Jordan Poyer, who is, having a really solid year, right? Especially in what is quote unquote a contract year, having a solid year. But he's been banged up a couple times now, right? Now it's the elbow. And so I needed some safety help. And they went out and they did that, and matter of fact, they brought back a former Bill in Dean Marlowe. So he's coming back. So I was happy with that move. Just the running back one is a little confusing for me. I get the speed, but, you can see where Cook is going, right? And, maybe you wanted to get an extra running back in there. I guess
safety. If somebody gets hurt, you got a little insurance in the running back spot. Maybe,
but I think I would have been okay with Moss in that, right? I don't know if it really resonates with me as far as having that weapon. I think
once you see that big play, explosive play for you in your uniform, and you see him make a big play, and you can say, "Man, we haven't seen that play like that out of Zach Moss in a long time." So,
But then again, Stevie D, you could, right? Just in theory, just throwing this around. You could have McKenzie line up in the backfield and give you that, right? You move him out of the slot. You could still go 3 wide, put Shakir out there in the slot, put McKenzie in the backfield. Now all of a sudden you got, that speed that you're looking for. I don't know. I can go either way with it. The one that I really needed was a safety, and I'm very happy to see that. That kind of gives a little bit of a security blanket in the back end of the secondary and on the defense. So that's what my Bills did. You mentioned the Chase Claypool. I don't know if he was a malcontent there, but you had heard rumors that he was going to be on the move. There were some other people that didn't go, and the one, and I'm saying it to you, is there was no move from the wide receiver position in New Jersey.
And they said they weren't going to do it.
Yeah. So, yeah, curious as to why
You're
that
not gonna,
move.
you're not going to trade a second-year
Well,
receiver a couple years in.
but
It's a dangerous precedent. I would never do that. I would never. I'm telling you now. I don't give a crap what his deal is. I would make him ride the bench, and I would ride him inactive. You are not setting a stage where you think as a young player you can dictate that you want to be traded. I don't think so, buddy. I
well,
don't
what
care.
about your other wide receiver?
You mean the one that started last week? We can't trade him. We can't make a trade with the Corey Davis hasn't played in weeks. I don't think he's going to play against Buffalo. I think they're going to hold him out and have him come back on the bye, give him that extra 2 weeks, and then come back from the bye because it's obviously he's missed 3 weeks with the knee. It's a pretty big deal. So I personally think you're going to hold him out. You're going to have Mims activated again, and Elijah Moore is going to obviously be activated. So I wouldn't trade. I would have been open to trade Denzel Mims before Elijah Moore because Mims is a couple years more in the league than Elijah Moore. But at least Mims, when he was unhappy, he said he was unhappy, but he didn't do what Elijah Moore has been doing.
Sure.
Right. And to me, as a GM, dude, you're going to learn, son. You're going to learn. You're going to ride that pine because you're not going to make waves. You're nobody in the league. So I think it was poor advice, whoever Elijah Moore gave advice to come out publicly and do what he did, because the Jets can make you sit there and be inactive and all day long. And then you're going to have nothing in your career. And then when it's time for free agency, who's going to pay you? Nobody's going to pay you. You haven't done anything in the league. So you got to be smart about it. I don't think he was real smart about it. I like Elijah Moore. I hope he figures out what's up in the head. I hope the Jets figure out a way to get him plays, because still some of this blame is on the Jets. It's not all on Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore's problem was he went public with it, and some of his things that he said was not smart advice. But it behooves the Jets to not give him the ball because he's electric. Get him the ball. You got to figure out how to get him the ball. So hopefully last week was the punishment. You got on the field. You didn't get any touches. Let's move on from that. This week against Buffalo, we need as much weapons on the field as possible to do something, right? So hopefully that's taken care of. But there was one other big trade that went down too.
Go ahead.
That T.J. Hawkinson traded within the division to the Vikings. I thought that was interesting that he was traded inside the division. The Vikings lost Irv Smith, their starting tight end, for 10 weeks. So I thought on Sunday, and I thought the Vikings pounced really quick this week to replace Irv Smith. Obviously, they're a one-loss team right now, and they're playing, good football for the teams that they're playing against. So I thought it was a smart move for them to get T.J. Hawkinson. And I think he has an opportunity to obviously put up some stats there. I think Jared Goff in Detroit is a little lost out there. That's
your boy.
I'm not a fan. He's not a fan coming out of college. Sunshine, right? He's like the definition of sunshine from the movie, right? So not a fan there. But that's one less weapon Goff can miss, throws to. So I don't think they really miss Hawkinson. But he's a good player. Good move by the Vikings.
Again, another team that, they faded over the last 5-6 weeks, and that's the Detroit Lions. They started out like they were doing something. Then they had that whooping put on them. And then ever since then, it's been downhill. And now you trade away an asset?
Yeah, when they got shut out by the Patriots, it was like, holy cow, everything just fell off the wagon. They were scoring 38 points a game. They get shut out by the Patriots. And, hey, Terry, and it's like their offense is gone. Absolutely gone. It's amazing. I know Amon-Ra St. Brown has been hurt with a concussion. He missed a game. So he's electric wide receiver for the Lions. But they just – obviously we knew their defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. But their offense was kind of keeping them in the game. And now their offense can't really score. And they're scoring garbage, time at end of games to make it a little bit close. But oh well.
So the last one was a little bit of a head scratcher. Again, what are teams doing? And this is not immediate for the future, but the Atlanta Falcons traded Calvin Ridley, right, to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Ridley, who is on suspension, right, will be back next year. I just shake my head on that one.
I think Calvin Ridley and the Falcons were going. even before that suspension, I think there was some issues going there. So they took an opportunity to trade and get some value for him. I can't kill him for a guy that gave him nothing this year and a little bit last year. So I can't kill him for doing it. And they're obviously I just think I know it's so confusing. There has nothing to do with the trade. Where's Kyle Pitts in this whole thing? You got this beast that you're wasting and not even giving the opportunity to let him showcase his stuff.
He should be in Buffalo. I told you all along where he should go.
But you guys didn't trade up. You guys didn't trade up 26 spots to get him.
Well, he was supposed to fall. He was supposed to fall
right
to
through
us.
That whole thing. He was that guy that was going to fall.
I did the whole draft tracker. No, we were going to just move up to like 10. But
when you did like 35 different mock drafts to get Kyle Pitts, like on the 35th one, like got him, right?
and we're saying right there.
So, if you first don't succeed, try again.
Absolutely, and it worked. I got there. Now it just needed for Brandon Beane to do his thing, and we see what happens. But yeah, there's a guy who will be opting out. Very quickly, because you got nothing around you, and you can't trust Marcus Mariota. And so, Stevie D, surprise happenings out of our nation's capital, right? So we were chatting a little bit offline on this, and when even when we talked about when they had the owners' meetings, right, and they were getting together and it got a little heated there, Irsay has been public about his statements and his sentiments about Daniel Snyder and the Commanders and their place and everything that's going on. And you've heard rumblings from whether it be Kraft or Jones or whomever. And then you hear Daniel Snyder, right? Daniel Snyder has been steadfast that, he's not selling. He's not doing anything. I'm here. And then he comes back with, if I'm going down, I'm burning this whole place down, basically, right? Because he said he was taking names and he was going to blow it all. And then lo and behold,
he's reached out to Bank of America and said, hey, see what we're worth. See what we can get. Throw some feelers out there. Right?
Yeah.
And honestly, I think Jim Irsay, I think you hit it. I think Jim Irsay in his mouth, I think really standing up for the owners that really don't want Dan Snyder around. I can't see any owner in those owners meetings that say, Dan Snyder, you're good for the NFL. I think Dan Snyder over the last several years has hurt the brand and has brought a lot of heat on the NFL because of how he's run his organization. And make no mistake about it, he runs that organization and he knows everything that's going on and he's in the center of it all. And I know, God, and I hate to say it because I don't know the lady's name. I know they hired a lady executive to oversee and kind of run it, but I think that's just a facade. And he's still running it, and it's still a toxic situation. Alex Smith came out and said it was a toxic situation before he got cut. I don't think he said it out of he was angry that the Washington Commanders cut him. I just think he was just speaking the truth that it's a dysfunctional house, and it's really dysfunctional. And obviously we had the cheerleaders come out and have negative press there. Obviously, the way they're running the front office there and some of the shenanigans that are going there, it's a toxic situation. And if the NFL has forced out Richardson from Carolina some years back, Snyder, I think, has probably done even worse. And we don't truly know the extent of it because the NFL is so close to it. I don't think we have the full scope of the disaster in Washington. So, if Richardson is forced to sell for his actions, I think Snyder is, if not worse than Richardson. You got the guy in basketball that was forced out some years back. Was it the Clippers? I forget the owner's name out there. He was forced to sell. And I think there's another owner that's selling in the NBA for his mouth. So all those organizations that have owners that want to yap and do bad things, Schneider's still at the top of the list, close to the top. He should be out.
Yeah. There have been now, and it seems a growing number of owners who have been forced to sell. Right? You had even in the WNBA, what was it, Kelly Loeffler, who owned the WNBA team in Atlanta. And you're right. You had the owner in Phoenix, and you had the
Phoenix,
one.
thank you. Yep, Phoenix.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then you had, of course, what was going on with the Clippers. A lot of it has, and you had now not sell, but a lot of pressure on the owner from the Texans. But a lot of it has always been about race, right? You haven't had as much where it's been just accumulation of just toxic, right? This one in DC is just toxic, right? Yeah. Even you left out Jay Gruden smoking weed outside of a bar, right?
Well, it's so legal now in so many states. I just didn't even think about that one now.
Well, maybe he forgot, right? It maybe no big deal. Emails from your general manager and vice president, right? Those were racist, right? And it's just there's so much, but I kind of laughed when we were going back and forth because Snyder was so headstrong that he is not selling it. If he's going to burn the whole thing down, for this to happen, somebody did something. Now Snyder doesn't have any marks on him, right? No black eyes, no puffy lips or anything like that. So maybe it was a sock party, right? They all got some socks, put some soap in there, and just went to town on him. But so that there's no evidence there. But somebody did something to really put the fear of God in Snyder, where he's starting to back off of his stance. There's going to be leaks, right? Hopefully we'll be here to see the leaks, right? Love to hear exactly what went down, and not only from Snyder's perspective to get him out, but maybe what evidence did you have? Because didn't he say he had PIs and everything else?
Yeah. I don't think he's got. Well, even if he has something, somebody's got something on him that's very embarrassing, and I think it outweighs going after the other owners because you still got to walk the streets at the end of the day. So
he's got the real tape on Robert Kraft. That's all I know. That's what I heard. Right? Just I don't know if I can trust
inside camera tape. Is that it?
Yes, at the massage parlor. Now I don't know if I can trust my source, so I have to be careful there, right? And I'm not coming out to say that OW Sports is saying that he has it, but what I heard, right, is that he has the official word on that. Hey, no pun intended on official word. You like that? All right, Stevie D, before we get to our teams, there's one more story I think initially, if I could talk today, initially we would start this.
It's time! Stop! Wait a minute.
So we would initially start it off as stop, wait a minute, but we did that before. And we did that last week, and we, been staying true to our word. We said we were going to come back. We were going to discuss what the actual outcome was for Britt Reid. And as you can see on the scroll, Britt Reid deserves more than 3 years.
Yeah,
I'm not happy with this one.
I'm not happy either, and for a few reasons, right? One, as a family man. A young girl is disabled, and to a known offender, it's not his first time doing this, and driving intoxicated, losing control, taking out the family. This poor girl's got brain and walking issues, and there was a couple of disturbing things because we talked a lot last week, right? So I don't want to rehash everything we talked about last week, but if you're listeners to the show, Britt Reid, a couple of years ago, leaving the Chiefs facility, was driving home on the ramp, doing 84 miles an hour, and takes out a car that's in the shoulder and really hurts this young little girl who was, I think, 4 at the time. She had brain damage, and now she's got leg issues. She can't walk. Her foot, it's like a lazy foot. She can only drag it, and she's got some head trauma that will never be repaired, right? And he's done this years ago. I believe in 2007, he was arrested and for a similar act. Not that he hurt somebody, but he was arrested for DUI. So
drug possession and drug possession when he was in Philly.
Yep. Thank you. And so there's a lot of things that bother me. He had a maximum jail sentence to 7 years. Okay, a maximum of 7 years. As you can see, he got 3 years on the scroll, right? He got 3. And there's a couple things that stick out. One, he only apologized right before he did the plea a month ago. The accident happened 2 years ago. He never apologized publicly or privately to the family of what happened. Now all of a sudden you get a sentence. Now you're saying your sorries for a judge right when you're gonna put your guilty state in there. That's a bunch of crap, right? You're not sorry.
Let me ask you now. By no stretch am I defending this guy, right? It's a family show, so I'm going to reserve some other statement. But is it possible that his defense team told him that we don't want you to say anything about anything, even if you want to apologize?
Yeah, it's possible.
Until we have either the trial or the appeal,
or you have somewhat of a plea agreement arrangement,
or plea, right? Rather.
It's possible. Yes. It's very possible. But you know what? Scumbags like that, I'm sorry. You have honor. You effed up. Have honor, right? You could have said something. You could have had the family of your father, right? You could have had anybody come out and say something. It didn't have to come from you. Could have been from a family member. I don't know. I just think there's honor when you do something. You made a mistake. What are you worried about? More time in jail? You're worried about yourself, right? It's selfish. That's what you're being. It's all about you. And you're worried about your jail sentence. You're worried about maybe getting sued and all this other stuff. And to me, when you put that drink in your hand and you started up that car, you're now responsible for that. And you weren't man enough. You put yourself in front of the young child and that family. And so to me, I hear what you're saying, but as a man, that wasn't a manly thing. Stand up. You effed up. There was nobody. You knew you were drunk. They tested you. You were drunk. You were driving the car. You're guilty, man. There's no way you can plead not guilty thinking that, well, okay, I'm going to plead not guilty, right? You're guilty, man. There's nobody else there, right? So own it. Own your mistake. And he didn't do it. And so I look at him and he's not a man. To me, he's not a man. He's not a man. He's a loser. That's what he is. He's an absolute loser. Men, adults, take responsibility for actions. He didn't do it. Right? So, and then he says, every time I see my daughter, there's a quote, I'm reading it. Every time I see my daughter, I think about Ariel and how my decision affected her so deeply and her family. You're saying this in front of the judge before you're getting sentenced because you want leniency, right? And I have to tell you, between the DA and the judge, this is unacceptable. If I'm in that county, I would not reelect that DA or that prosecutor. I would not do that. I would not reelect, because you know what? That could be your family the next time. Right? Or maybe because Reid is the son of the coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, and everybody's, it's all part of the Kansas City. We can't harm the Kansas City Chiefs, right? So we're gonna give him a slap on the wrist. We're gonna give him 3. He's out in the 2 1/4 with good behavior because we don't want to upset the apple cart with Andy Reid. F that, man. That's that special treatment, right? That drives everybody nuts. Because if you're at a certain status, you get treated differently. It's crap.
Is it a mandatory 3? Do you know?
No, it's just 3 years in jail, and I'm assuming just like anything else, you get 85%. If you're on good behavior, you can get out in 85% of your time or something like that. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. So, but at the end of the day, whether it's 3, if he serves the whole 3 years, is a joke in itself. He should have gotten the max. What message does that send to individuals, right? Well, okay, so he's somebody and I'm not, so I get the 7 years, but you're somebody and you get the 3. Yeah, that's really good. That's a really good message to send to the people, right? I mean, this is just, it's awful all the way. And the judge is a disgrace because he had the opportunity, because it was in his hands to do the right thing, and he didn't do it. It's a disgrace for the prosecutor and the DAs not to really hammer this hard to say, I want the max. They did not look out for the family. They did not look out for the residents of that county and of the state. They're not looking out for the people's best interest.
All right. I'm going to ask you a question. If Ariel was not a young African American little girl, would this, well, it's a two-parter. Would the sentence be longer?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's because of Britt Reid and the status of that family.
Now, if Britt Reid was, say, Eric Bieniemy's son, would he have gotten longer?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, right? Because
we don't go deep. We don't go deep on this show, right? We've always made that a priority not to go deep. But
I think history has shown that in others. Look, if the DA was willing to do this, I don't think so. If you're asking me my honest opinion, I think if it was Eric Bieniemy's son, I think he would have got a stiffer penalty.
I do too. I think I was not
expecting that question, by the way. You really threw me a curveball on that question. I had no idea that question was coming.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about some things, right? And again, we try to stay away from this, right? It's too polarizing, and at the end of the day, we're here to talk about sports. Right. This just happens to fall into that, right? And when you look at it, is it the celebrity, right, that afforded him the leeway and the latitude to get away from a stiffer penalty? Is it race, right? That
honestly, I don't know if it's as much as race as on this particular one, where I think it's celebrity status of his father in Kansas City, and it has to do with the Chiefs because NBC covered it.
Hold on, CBD. Where I will challenge you that, right, is post the Ferguson episode, right? Not only was Missouri, but Kansas was, kind of because of their proximity, they were put into that. And there were a lot of things that were coming out just talking about the disparities in the judicial system. And again, not getting too deep into this one, but they talked about that. And we've seen certain things where athletes have been afforded some gratuities, if you will, right, in the legal system. And I think when we look at the total picture for Britt Reid, what is the thing that bugs me, right? The whole thing bugs me of what happened there, right? But what bugs me is that this is not a one-time occurrence for him, right? He is a multiple offender, right? And he's been a multiple offender across the geo landscape, right? So he has history that follows him. And typically when you see, I won't say typically, but when you see the victims on the other side, there's always been, especially when it comes to race, there's always been a not even or equal playing field, right?
But I think if Britt Reid was not associated with the Kansas City Chiefs, he was just Britt Reid, the son.
It helps. All it does is it helps.
Right.
It adds more to the pot.
I think on this, because it's in Kansas City, his father is the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, which are now on the map, and everybody knows the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they went easy on him. I think if Britt Reid was the son of an IT guy, I think Britt Reid gets more. I think he gets more. I think exactly the privilege.
I think Britt Reid, being the son of Andy Reid, and also just by his race, I think those two things help mitigate a substantially longer sentence.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. I think history has shown that.
Yeah.
Right. Again, I don't want to go in too deep, but if you really look at sentences, it's plain as day if you want to look at it. It's just not the same.
Yeah. No matter, and let's move away from it because that's not really what we're about. We can have that could be a whole other podcast show that we have. But when we look at this, if there's going to be outrage, there needs to be, let's not have outrage over things that are inconsequential, right? Let's have outrage of how a little girl, right? Her life is now, and I'm not going to say ruined, right? Because her family loves her, and just through the statements that her mother gave, right? They're going to do their best to make sure that she has the best life she can possibly have, right? But we all know that there are things that she will forever miss out on, right? And it's unfair to her, right? And if there is going to be outrage, that's the outrage that needs to happen. The cover-ups by the NFL in this case, the cover-ups by the Kansas City Chiefs in this case, the
media coverage. Here
there you go.
KansasCity.com. Yeah, I'm calling them out, right? It's the local website that a lot of people go to, right? It has all the articles. And I've been monitoring their page, right? They had the article towards the top of their page for like a half to 3/4 of the day. This sentence just came out. It is so far down on the webpage, I had to keep scrolling. Oh, it's not part of these 12 articles, not part of these main 12 articles, it was like on the bottom, 3/4 of the way down. I'm like, this just came out. How can it be that far on the website? ESPN had it on their page for a little bit. And I know ESPN is more global, right? But it was there and it was gone very quickly. NBC on a Sunday night game when the Chiefs were playing, they did it as an afterthought to talk about it a couple of weeks back. It was an afterthought. It was like they just wanted to
30 seconds.
Yeah, right before commercial break, right?
Yes.
They didn't have any panel discussions about it, nothing. And it's like, we'll talk about it quickly and then move on and say, well, we checked that box because we talked about it. No, you didn't cover it. You talked about it, you didn't cover it. And that's the sad part from local media to national media on this, right? Because at the end of the day, we can take Britt Reid, the coach, Andy Reid, the main guy, right? We can take the Kansas City Chiefs out of it. At the end of the day, what happened here when you break it all down was a 2-time loser that took out a child and got 3 years that should have gotten 7. And that could happen to any one of us or worse, right? Any one of us it could happen to. And that's the sentence that the person that did the work would get. That's a crime in itself. If you take away all the celebrity stuff, it's just a shame because we have all these tools in front of us to take an Uber, a Lyft, be responsible not to get behind the wheel of the car. And he chose to do that and ruin the family and ruin the young child. And that's the true tragedy in it all because they weren't, sentenced to the max. And so I'm like, I can go on and on and on about it. I'm just going to say the same thing over and over again, but it's DA didn't do the right thing. Prosecutor didn't do the right thing. Didn't fight hard enough to a longer sentence. And if that family had money and had enough of an attorney to get in front of the cameras about this, maybe it would have been different. But the family doesn't have the money to go out there and get the high price attorney and call a crime, right? Call a foul, right?
That's a whole other topic, CBD.
Yeah. So anyway, all right, we should move on. We'll never get to the other topics.
All right, so as we move on, we are covering last week's games. Let me kick it off with the Bills DVD.
You didn't play.
Yeah, we didn't play in the second half.
Oh, shoot, you did play last week. Man, I thought you were on the bye. I forgot you had the Sunday night game against Green Bay. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, I forgot you were off the bye.
So, we come out, right, 3-0, and then after the 3-0, I mean, just, you're like, okay, that 3-0 was part of the bye, right? And then all of a sudden, everything is just clicking, right? I'll get to the Packers in a minute. they're a lost cause. We go into halftime, and this is where I really have concern because we came out of halftime very lackluster. We came out of halftime just thinking because we have the Buffalo on the side of our helmet, right, that we were just going to, again, throw up another 40, 50 points on a team because it was just rolling. There's a professional team on the other side, right, led by a future Hall of Fame quarterback, right, even though he doesn't have the weapons. They have a good team over there. And all of a sudden, things got a little different, right, got a little dicey. You got a little cocky. Right, and bad passes by Josh. Right, the defense just it's hard to explain the defense. Right,
Did Owens go on cruise control because you knew how much better you are, and it's like, all right, we just got to get through this game, and
that's really what it felt like. It felt like that on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, I'm trying to give Leslie Frazier the benefit of the doubt. And I believe on the defensive side of the ball, they said, let's not coast, but let's almost play that prevent defense, right? And what do they say with prevent defense? It prevents you from winning, right? Well, it was almost that same thing because you expected that being up 17, that Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers was going to kind of just try to throw the ball because you have to, right? It says in the manual that if you're down 17 in the second half, you have to start throwing. And Green Bay decided that Aaron Jones and Dylan were going to be the ones that just kind of bring them back, which in a way they almost did. But they just kept running the ball. Right. And that when you run the ball, it's time consuming and everything else. And so, they ran themselves out of the game. But they were saying that they were exposing the Bills' weakness of the run deep, but the Bills are playing prevent, right? They were playing more in that pass.
You just want the clock to run. You just want the clock to run.
But you also it was a gamble because it got close, right? It shouldn't have been that close. I mean, they got to within 10. They went to kick it was like a 50-yard field goal. Crosby missed that one, and that was the game. I'm just curious, if Leslie Frazier, I'd love to hear his explanation of the whole thing, but I'm just curious if he was like, you guys can do whatever you want to do if you're going to run the ball, right? We're just going to make sure that you don't get that big play and then all of a sudden turn that into a quick 7, right? And if that was his mindset, I get it. It didn't look good. As a fan, it didn't feel good, right? It doesn't feel good watching them hand the ball off and the guy get 9, 11, 9, right? You're like, somebody make a tackle here. But, they weren't getting the 25. They weren't getting the 15. And next thing you know, they're in range. So, again, I don't want to just completely go in on Leslie Frazier. I don't want to go in on the defense because they exerted and showed themselves in the first half, right, which was good. I just, personally, I want to close out games. Let's close it out and let's be done, right? What did they say from the program?
On that side, right? Where's your offense closing that out, right? Your defense, too, at the end of the day, only gave up 17 points, and it's not like they killed you, on the Packers offense killed you guys, but where was your offense in the second half? I think you put up 24 in the first half or something like that.
Put up 3 in the second. Yeah. Until you asked where was the offense in. It's 2 red zone turnovers, right? Josh never has a red zone turnover, right? And you have that. It seemed like we were shooting ourselves in the foot, right? Again, did we think that we were better than what we were, or did we think that, underestimate the opponent? I think a lot of that went into that, right? It did not seem like the Bills team that we've seen over the previous 7 weeks or 6 weeks, right, that they had played. But it doesn't mean that I'm sounding the alarm either, right? It's not anything that you need to worry about. And actually,
unless you have stacked performances, then you would have something to worry about.
Well, what I like about that is that it's kind of the awakening, right? Jacksonville last year was kind of that awakening. Like, wait a minute, what just happened here, right? Well, this can be the same thing. What just happened here this is not going to happen. We have a mission, right? And we need to stay focused. We have to play for 60 minutes or hopefully for 45 minutes because we played such a great first 45. Right. We can rest, right? But you get what I'm saying when I say we have to play 60 minutes, right? And as long as they keep that mindset, as long as they keep that mentality, right, you have that killer instinct, you're putting teams away. You're not allowing them just to hang around. 17 points is too close, right? Just like in hockey, they say a 2-goal lead is the worst lead to have. And it absolutely is because you kind of relax, but you relax, all of a sudden you give up a goal. Now you're only at one, and then the other team has the momentum and blah, blah, blah. 17 is right in that sweet spot too, right? Because, it sounds like 3 scores, but you get a touchdown. Well, now we can kind of play around with those 10 points, right? They always talk about it. Do you kick first, right? Do you go for the touchdown? You're kind of in that no man's land. If you give up one, all of a sudden everything's getting really tight. So, obviously, we're going to dedicate the last portion of this show. I'll let you talk because there's a monumental game coming up this week. I thought they were going to flex it, but they didn't flex. I guess it's too early to flex. So
they might have flexed it if the Jets would have beaten the Patriots. But man, we just can't beat that organization, right? It's 13 in a row.
So talk to us about that.
It's interesting. The Jets roster is so much more talented than New England. It's not even funny. When you watch that game in the first half, Bill Belichick was just at a loss because offensively they couldn't do anything. The Jets defense just smothered the Patriots offensively. It was I was like, wow. And then, and then right before halftime, my Lord, you want to talk about a momentum swing in that game where it's 10-3. Michael Carter picks off Mac Jones, runs it back for a touchdown. But wait, there's a flag. Roughing the passer on Jonathan Franklin Myers, so it comes back. They wound up kicking a field goal, and it's 10-6 at halftime. They come out the second half, and they go right down the field, score a touchdown. It's 13-10. And from that play, you want to talk about a momentum change where the Jets could not stop it. They forgot how to tackle. It's almost like when that penalty came out, it was like the Adam Gase New York Jets came out. It was the most bizarre thing to watch a team that dominated that first half. The first 59 minutes of the game, they dominated. And then they had that misfortune. And Jet fans and Salah were all pissed. That's not roughing the passer. I watched the play. Did he kill him? No, he didn't kill him. He did knock him down. I didn't realize he fell down to the ground, right? And they actually called him for launching at the quarterback. And here's what I say to the penalty. And to all the Jet fans out there, and to you, Robert, you're telling me when you watch that tape, that's not roughing the passer? You know what it is? It's called stupidity. It's called stupidity because he didn't need to take the shot. We were hitting him all game long. There was no need to take a cheap shot because we were pounding him all first half. Why do we need to take the shot? We didn't need to take that shot. You have to be smarter than that. And to me, I call that a little bit of selfish football because you were hitting him all game long. If your intent was to send a message, you already sent the message. We had 6 or 7 sacks in the game total. We should have had 11 if some of our guys would tackle a little bit at the line of scrimmage. We let them get away. But easily could have had 11 sacks in that game. We were all over him. And that penalty, when you want to talk about a momentum swing, putting a pin in the Jets, all of a sudden at that point in time, we could not tackle. Stevenson, the running back, we could not tackle him. It was like we had him at the line of scrimmage and we let him go, and then he would go for 54 yards. And every play, it's just almost like the defense says, I'm done. I'm out. And they checked out. And I don't know what the coaches said on the sideline. They couldn't uncheck it. They couldn't uncheck it until kind of the fourth quarter. You know, Zach's making all these turnovers with the interceptions, and the defense did step up on those turnovers because some of them were deep in Jets territory and held them to field goals. I mean, one time they had so many sacks on the play, they drove them out of field goal range. I was like, oh my God, thank God, right? Because I think that at one point they had like 4th and 34 with the sacks, right? So it was there's so much to cover, and it's like opening up a wound, and I don't know if I'm going to go there. It was poor from the defensive side. Now I go to the offensive side of the ball, right? Offensive line's got to be better. Right? We have to. Zach Wilson needs to throw. I know he's a more electric when he gets out of the pocket, and he can get explosive. But I tell you, and I know he's young, but man, he makes some silly. I'll call it silly because it's a family show. Decisions to when to throw the ball away. There was a play in the end zone. Oh wait, I gotta get this out.
No. I got my finger on the button, so you can go.
Okay.
Feel free. And if I need to beep.
There was a play where he starts to roll out. He's in the end zone. He's rolling out. He's holding the ball. And he's trying to fake him in the end zone. I'm literally sweating bullets. I am sweating. I'm like, throw it away. Throw the ball away. Throw it away. And then he finally throws it away. And it's like, you realize you're in the end zone. You're susceptible for a holding call. That is a safety.
Yes.
And gets the ball. You cannot fool around in your end zone. And not for nothing, you're a quarterback that's been playing since Pee Wee football. You know you cannot hold the ball in the end zone because if there's a holding call, it's a safety. And that is just stupid football right there. That is stupid football. And another play, he's running around and he's buying time, which is great. And he can escape pressure. Tremendous. Great. You buying more time. Love it. But there's a point in time when there's nothing there and you just have to throw it away. Live to see another play. So then he tries, you know what? I'm going to throw it away. But you know what? I'm going to throw it in a way that, you know what? I just want to see if I can hit the white line. I don't want to, it's too easy to throw it into the stands. It's way too easy to throw it into the stands. So you know what? I'm going to see if I can place it on the out of bounds line and see if I can hit it. And what happens? Devin McCourty intercepts the ball. You wonder why I don't have hair. I have hair from all the previous years of watching the Jets. But I was just the F-bombs that I was dropping in that house.
Get quick.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it. Was ridiculous because as an NFL quarterback, there's an old saying, you can't fix stupid. And I hope we can, because those were stupid plays that were immature and selfish football. Because if you take a safety because of a hold, that's stupid. I mean, that's as dumb as Dan Orlovsky running out at the back of the end zone some years back for the Detroit Lions. Like, you got to know where you are on the field. You have X amount of yards. You got to know that you got 10 yards in the end zone. You run out the back. Well, Zach, you're running around in the end zone. You got to know there's got to be a clock. And the longer you hold it, man, there's going to be a hold because somebody's coming after you and the lineman's going to make a hold. Right. So, just silly. And look, he's a young player. He had a bad game. I was really hot. You and I talked about it. He gave me a few hours to cool down. I needed that cool down. We talked. Look, he's a young football player, and all the Jet fans are calling up saying you got to bench Zach Wilson, and he's no good. He's not the franchise guy, right? And so, and I'm not calling Zach Wilson Josh Allen. Not saying that, right? But all I'm saying is, you can't judge a quarterback after 18 games. Because if you judge a quarterback after 18 games, what would the Buffalo Bills done with and I'm speaking to the Jet fans, not to the Buffalo Bills fans, because I don't know what the Buffalo Bills fans were saying in the first year and a half with Josh Allen. But if you compare the numbers, the touchdowns, the interceptions, the passer rating, the yards per game are all within a small percentage of each other, right? Josh Allen had fumble problems as a young quarterback. He couldn't hold on to the ball. You hit him, he fumbled. I mean, it was unbelievable when he came up, right? Because he's running with the football. He didn't know how to secure it. All I'm saying is you
got to be careful on that, right? Because no. Hold on. When you say look at the numbers, you have to be careful in that. And I'm not saying anything to Josh or to Zach or anything like that. You can't look at the numbers, and I hate when they do that, right? You have to look at what they're doing on the field, right? Compare what Peyton Manning did, not by the numbers, but the way he controlled the field. Troy Aikman, not by the numbers, the way he controlled the field. Look at what Josh Allen did, not by the numbers, the way he controlled the field. Not at Zach at the numbers, but the way he controlled the field. right? There's some things, and this is why I want to kind of slow you down on the Josh comparison, because I saw that. I didn't really see all of Peyton. I didn't really see all of Troy. But with Josh, what I saw is that Josh played hero ball, right? That was his knock. And when you talk about the fumbles, yeah, the numbers are going to look bad, but it was because he was always trying to make that extra play where he had to learn to slide, right? He had to learn to, you know what, we can't get that. I can't make that pass. I can't do that. And that's where he got all those fumbles, right? And then as that came out of his game, you started to see something else. When you look at Aikman had a bunch of interceptions, right? So did Manning.
Had a bad line, and he was running for his life in the beginning, right? So it's like, you know, he had it real bad as for the line goes.
That's why I love numbers, Stevie D. I love numbers, but sometimes I hate numbers because they don't always tell the story.
You're sure? Okay, I can go with that. I agree to disagree. But the moral of the story is you can't write a book on a quarterback after 18 games and say he can't do it.
Oh, I agree with that.
Because there's plays in the games that Zach Wilson shows, and you're like, man, he's electric, right? If you look at some of the explosive plays he has made, like last week, he had 9 explosive plays, right? He's had a lot of explosive plays, but he's also had a lot of stupid plays that he has to learn from. And at some point, what you're hoping for in that maturity as he gets older in the game, and I put this part on the coaching staff, is to coach this out of him and help him in that game. So it's on Zach, it's on the coaches, but I'm not ready to throw in the towel on Zach Wilson. He's got too much talent. He's got too much arm talent. Now, me personally, I like a taller quarterback. If I was going to speak on preference, I like a taller quarterback that can stand above the offensive lineman, that can see a little bit easier, you know, in the pocket. Zach Wilson, he doesn't like throwing from the pocket, and I understand our line hasn't been the greatest, but there's sometimes, man, when you're going back and you're stepping in, all of a sudden you feel a little bit of pressure. Instead of stepping up in that lane to throw the ball downfield, you're running back 20 yards to try and get more time. No, real quarterbacks.
Hall of Famer Steve Young is calling on the line. Steve Young is like, what's wrong with the smaller quarterback? Wait, hold on. Here's Doug Flutie. You know, you have just really gotten under the skin of the smaller quarterbacks.
Well, you know, I like Doug Flutie, even though he went to Boston College. But Steve Young, I can give a take on Steve Young, but he bags up the Jets a little bit. But when you think about a quarterback, you drop in the pocket, your circle creates around you. You're supposed to step up, deliver the ball to your receiver. When he gets that pressure, he's running backwards, and then has the escapability, sure. But if you were to just step up in the pocket when you have the opportunity and deliver the strike, I don't see that as Zach Wilson. And maybe that's a youth. He'll grow into it. I'm being patient. Look, he went 3.5 games without a turnover, right? And then the turnover bug hit. There was games where he didn't play great, had the numbers, and you ran the football, and it ran the football well. But overall,
I think that's a comfort level, Stevie D. I really do. I think that's a comfort level. What we talked about the other day after the game, you know, this is right now his first full season, right? Because of injuries and because of different things that happen, you know, he hasn't played in a regular full season, and so he's just at this point. I don't think that anybody, whether it be the fans, whether it be the coaching staff, whether it be the media, can really make a full decision on a rookie quarterback just after, you know, one full set of games, right? I think with the Jets coaching staff, what they know that none of us know is the true work ethic of Zach in the facility Monday to Saturday, right?
And that's what Solid is praising on the press conferences, that you don't understand the work that this young man is putting in the office every day to get better, right? And so
and that's really it's unfair for us, right? Because we only use one day out of 7 to make our judgment, right? They see him all 7 days. They know what he's doing. They know how much film he's watching. They know if he's picking up the film. And then it's just, you know, the cliche that the game has to slow down. Well, he's just getting past that point where it's time for the game to slow down. I can't say in all honesty where he will project to be in 3, 5, 7, maybe 15 years. I don't know. But I do think it's unfair for anybody. And we hear it all the time. I asked you before the show, right? This is what I'm hearing, right? Like I have my ear to the pulse of all of the guys out there, right? But this is what I'm hearing is that they're saying that if things don't go well this week, that the Jets would be looking at, putting Flacco back or looking at Mike White.
Flacco is done for the Jets. Just so you're aware, Flacco is done with the Jets. They've already announced that Mike White is the backup for Zach Wilson the rest of the year. They want to see if Zach were to get hurt, what Mike White has as a long-term backup.
Well, and here's the thing: if I'm a Jet fan, right? Oh, why am I saying that?
I just like hearing that, Jet fan coming out of your mouth.
I would be more concerned about watching the development of my quarterback this year than I am the wins and losses, right? The win streak that you had was good, right? It showed that right. And it goes back to what we said before. It was good because it showed that you knew how to win on the road. It showed that you knew how to win close games, right? These are all things that you have to learn. But at the end of the day, this year is about growing, right? If you got to the playoffs, that's great, right? That's the icing on the cake. But it's more about the development and growing. And this is where the relationship that Zach has with his receivers. This is where the relationship Zach has with his coaching staff. This is where getting Zach into that comfortable area where he can produce. This is what this is about. So all that noise about benching him, that's nothing.
But it tells you with the wide, because you touched on the wide receivers, right? The offense with Zach Wilson, with Corey Davis in the game, he's a much better quarterback at throwing the football with Corey Davis in the game. When Corey Davis doesn't play, he's nowhere near. So Corey Davis is his true blanket. Now, Garrett Wilson went for 6 for 117, had a really good football game. He had some really explosive plays there in the game. Kid's a special talent. But there's something about Corey Davis for him as that veteran receiver that, man, he loves to find Corey Davis. So it's a shame that he's not going to play this week, Corey Davis. I'd love to see him and Wilson on the field and see what we can do. It's a loss for Zach Wilson.
You talking about this week?
Yeah.
Are you talking about the return of Trey Day?
Well, we'll see how he does. We'll see how he does.
You'd like to see? Oh my goodness!
Well, no, we haven't seen him on the field. Is his speed and all that back, right? I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen him in practice. Have you seen him in practice? Right.
Actually, I have. I've seen the videos of him in practice.
Okay.
So is his speed there? I couldn't tell you that. But if he needed to get a blow, Christian Bedford goes in there and
look. At the end of the day, you go up against a team like Buffalo Bills, you want all your weapons, right?
You do.
You need your weapons, right? I'm not saying the Jets are going to beat Buffalo with or without Corey Davis. That's not where I'm going. But for Zach Wilson, his comfort level is having Corey Davis on the field. There's something with that relationship that they have. And I do want to touch on one thing about this game.
Before you do that, let me just say this may be a blessing in disguise. Because
they have to learn to play without Corey Davis and
develop that same relationship he has with Corey Davis with Garrett Wilson, so that when Corey Davis comes back, you're not solely dependent on one, and now you have a wide. So it could be a blessing in disguise. Go ahead.
First drive of the game, things are moving. First play, we get a nice run play. We're like second. I know it sounds funny because it's like the second play of the game. They do a quick out. Michael Carter comes out of the backfield, does the quick out in the flat area. He's got Elijah Moore on the quick slant, wide open. Zach doesn't even look through the progression. The play was to Michael Carter the whole way. I'm yelling at the TV. I'm like, you had Elijah Moore. I'm like, you know what? That's telling me Elijah Moore is not going to be doing anything with this football game because when I tell you Elijah Moore was so wide open, I'm not saying this was a touchdown play. This is probably going to turn out to be a 20-yard pass play because there was nobody there. You saw it from the camera angle that there was nobody covering Elijah Moore on the quick slant. The linebacker was nowhere near, and he didn't even look that way. It was like almost it was designed that Carter was coming out that way, and he hit him. It was an awful throw. The corner, the linebacker came up, saw the play, read it. Even if he caught it, he was tackled right there for like 2 yards, and that was it. I'm like, you wonder why Elijah Moore wants to get traded. Right? I said it tonight, and you wonder why Elijah Moore wants to get traded because you had him, and you again. I'm not saying that he looked his way and then looked him off. He didn't even look at him. That's the problem in itself that you didn't even see it because he was so wide open before Michael Carter even came out of his break before you threw the football. If you gave the look on that side, you would have seen you had Elijah Moore. As soon as you snapped the ball, you saw it. But when the play happened, Zach Wilson's head was already that way. Didn't even see Elijah Moore, and that upset me on the second play. I'm like, man, I didn't like it. But
so anyway, Stevie D,
Gardner, 3 receptions, he allowed 1 yard. 3 receptions, allowed 1 yard.
Kids, so Stevie D,
kids talent.
Who do you have this week?
I got the Jets. I'm never going to say the Jets.
I wasn't asking for. Who
you asked me the question. You asked me.
Who are the Jets playing?
I don't know, some Canadian team.
Yeah, okay. See, you're trying to talk.
Your owner flirted with going to Canada, right? Didn't he?
No, not my owner. My owner stepped in to make sure that we stayed in the good old USA. That's right. Let me go down the list of Bon Jovi, Donald Trump, and the owners of Labatt's and Molson that were the ones that were trying to get us to go across the border. So no, thank you, Terry Pegula. Thank you, Kim Pegula. And all the rest that wanted us to go to Toronto. I don't need you.
Remember, your nephew is a Blue Jay.
He is. And went through this whole thing over text. I'm stuck, right? Because I'm done with Toronto. I swore off everything Toronto. As soon as they tried to make a power play, right? I saw you. I stopped drinking Molson Canadian. I stopped drinking Labatt's. Right, I'm done. I'm done with Toronto. I won't go back. No Carabana, none of that. Because you tried to steal me in the middle of the night, just like how the Indianapolis Colts or the Baltimore Colts were stolen in the middle of the night.
I'll
never forget seeing.
Where's SLT? You know, where's SLT?
I don't know where he is, but we're not talking about him right now.
Because Lamar right now would be saying, "You sure you wouldn't want to go back to Toronto?"
No.
I
did not say Canada. I said Toronto. Niagara Falls is completely different. Okay,
all right.
OW Sports After Dark. Yes, okay. OW Sports After Dark. But yeah, so I'm worried about this game, and.
Well, the Jets defense is legit. I will give them that. So we'll see what happens.
It's not that. It's not that. I'm worried because of what happened last week. On paper, we're a better team.
Last week, you can't. Everything
no. It just like it does, but the mentality. This is what worries me. Right? We are on paper a better team. We are on the field a better team, but. You can't go into it thinking that they are not a good team on the other side of the field,
sure.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And allow what happened in the second half against Green Bay to take place. This is exactly what happened in Jacksonville. We talked about it earlier on the show. This is what concerns me. And maybe we got lucky last week, right? Instead of having that turn and flip on us to be a loss like it happened in Jacksonville, that now we stay laser focused. And if we stay laser focused, if we do what we're supposed to do, yes, it's on the road. We have to go to the smelly state of New Jersey. But yes, even though we go
there, it is a smelly spot.
Even though it's hard it is.
It was former swampland. That's where the stadium was built on, former swampland.
Great. That's just great. But, even having to do all of that, what we're hoping for is that, we can persevere. And if we've learned that lesson, if that was our wake-up call, then I feel good, right? I don't want us to – it's not a trap game, but I don't want us to take the Jets for granted.
No, right? I don't think it's a trap game. I think the Jets defense is too good to call it a trap game. I don't think so. The Jets are not a bottom feeder football team. So it's not a trap game. Trap
They're
games are
not.
for bottom feeders, right? So
They're not.
I don't think it's a trap game. Buffalo is clearly, from all phases of the game, are better football team. There's no doubt about it. But I wouldn't call it a trap game. I mean, look, there's not many teams in the NFL that have the full talent offensively and defensively as the Buffalo Bills. So the Jets, again, not at that tier. But honestly, what I'm coming out of this game is more of I want to see the Jets defense versus the Buffalo Bills offense, and I want to see were we able to close the gap of what happened last year, because it was not pretty. And I'm curious to see, where Sauce lines up, how DJ Reid does, how does our front four do, right? Because when you see for me as a Jets fan, when you see the Jets front four, and we've been able to get pressure the last 5 weeks of the season, because the first 3 we really didn't, but the last 5 games we've been consistent. Now, what happens when you start going up against a more elite team, right? How does your front four react, right? Are they overrated as far as pressure bringing the front four? Because you haven't faced a top-rated offense and maybe a top-rated offensive line. So now we're going to see what you do, right?
Is this your first one against a top-end team? Is this the first game this year against a top-end team?
Well, we played the Ravens, right? So I don't know how good their line is, but we played the Ravens. The Ravens, the Jets defense is to hold the Ravens to the least amount of yards rushing. Anytime since Lamar's been in the league, they held him to 68 yards rushing for the game. So that was a takeaway for that game. Played Cleveland, and then we had the Bengals, and then the Steelers, right? And then we started getting into Miami, New England.
So the Bengals game that was before the Chase injury.
Yeah, the Bengals game. That game
interesting. How did you do?
We lost 24-12, but we had 5 turnovers. I don't look at it as the Bengals from an offensive standpoint was a juggernaut. I think when your offense commits 5 turnovers and you only gave up 24 points, that was good. Jamar Chase had 29 yards receiving against Sauce Gardner. Right. So Jamar Chase was not even a factor in the game. It was the turnovers that just kill you. You just can't do that. And when you have 5 turnovers. So when I look at the Bengals game, you walk away and discuss, because typical in an NFL game, you're not giving away 5 turnovers in the game. Right. So you look at it and you say, man, you lost 24-12 you had your backup quarterback in there and you had 5 turnovers.
You hear that, Nathan Peterman? Just calling out the Nathan Peterman. You said you're not winning with 5. He did 6. So we were doomed. No, and maybe wrong example, right? Especially the Bengals, they can't get that offensive line straight, right? Joe Burrow is going to die back there. He is going to die back there, and it's sad because they have all the weapons. But I was bringing them up because I was thinking about the weapons, but then I think about that offensive line. I'm sure you guys just ran right through that offensive line like it was.
We had some pressures, yeah. We
actually
did have some pressures, but it was weird. It was like the first 3 games, the team was still figuring out some of the new pieces, and we weren't gelling. But week 4, all of a sudden it just seemed like everything started clicking defensively in the scheme, because the first 3 games, we had a communication problem in the secondary. And I remember DJ Reid going into the Steelers game, sent out a note that says, communication problem fixed. Because it was in the secondary, LaMarcus Joyner he was out of position, giving up big plays. And then DJ Reid made the statement saying the communication problem has been fixed. And since that game, the whole secondary, the whole defense has been totally different. Now, again, you can only play what's in front of you, and that's what the Bills bring as far as a challenge goes. Is how much are you a pretender or a contender? Now, even if you lose the game to Buffalo and have a good game, you're not a pretender. You can still be considered a contender. You're just not at that level. And even if we were to lose or even beat Buffalo, I still don't think we're not at that level. I know. Look. At the end of the day, even if you win the game, you're still not at that level. You won that game, but you're not at that level. You have too many holes on the offensive side of the ball, and everybody knows it, right? Your defense can keep you like the 09-010 Jets with Mark Sanchez. The offense was not good. It was the defense that kept in those games and your running game. Our running game is not as good as the 09-010 Jets. Our defense is every good as the 09-010 Jets, but we're not consistent anywhere with our quarterback play. And LaFleur's offense is so everybody's moving every which way, and I don't know if that's a good thing for Zach Wilson in running that offense. Maybe it's a little bit complicated as a young football player in the league that there's so much movement and it's not a traditional kind of offense. But
well, that's what you said for Denzel Mims, right? It was too much motion, too much going on for Mims.
Yeah, he can't go in motion and then stop and set himself. So I don't know if that is too much, just going in motion, setting your feet, and then going. No. He's got to, dude, you can't come across and go forward. You gotta stop, bud. You gotta stop. I can't believe how many illegal motions he's got with the amount of snaps he's on the field. I think it's like 15% of the time he's on the field, he gets a illegal.
So CBD, we will, as Mills Lane would say, let's get it on. We will get it on at 1 p.m. Thank goodness, actually, that we're for the longest time I wanted prime time. And then they just throw all these primetime games at you, and it just messes up your Sundays. It messes up your Mondays. Yeah, you have time to watch all the games and stuff, right? But
I love the early game. All my energy. Yeah, all my energy on that Sunday has to come out in that early game. Because at the late game, I've watched a football game before that. It's just not as passionate. At the 3 o'clock. At 1 o'clock, I'm dropping F-bombs like it's crazy during a game. At 4 o'clock, I'm a little bit more mellow. At the 4 o'clock.
I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know what to do with myself. I don't want to get started in projects. I'm like, ooh, this may take a little longer. Like, you start cutting the lawn, right? You better make sure that you're done. And done is not just cutting the lawn. You got to edge. You got to trim. There's a lot that you have to do there, right?
Wait a minute. You cut
your
lawn?
Oh, yeah. We're back in the game, baby. We're back in the game. We're back in.
All right. I was just about to laugh and say, wait a minute. The last time I heard, you were a fancy guy. Got to pay somebody to cut the lawn.
I still want to be that fancy guy because I don't like it in the summer. But now that it's cooled down, we're back in the game, right? You feel like you're investing yourself into your property, right? But you got to know when the start-stop time is, right? Because when you have a 4 o'clock start, right, you may say, I'll do some stuff early, and if you get started too late, oh, boy, now you got half your lawn is cut, and the other half isn't cut, right? I will stop mid-lane, and people drive by and try, oh, I see the Bills flag. That's what it means, right? So you got to get things. But CBD, that's going to wrap it up for us. I don't wish you luck this week. I wish you injury free.
Everybody comes out healthy.
Exactly. I wish you injury free, but I don't wish you luck.
I'm surprised we're even doing it this week. That we were actually on the call this week talking about it. Jets Bills week. It's.
I had to get it in this week.
Well, you know what, folks? If next week, if only one of us come on next week, you'll know why.
The Bills make me wanna shout, kick your heels up and shout.
All right.
What about my theme song? I mean, how do I do this here? Out here. I really got to figure this out. This is not right. I have a feeling maybe it's over here. I don't even know where it's at.
Right there. It's right there.
Where? Oh, God.
Well, that's right. That's right. That's
you need all the cheers and the Buffalo wagon thing impossible. So I don't need all that. It would have been nice.
Okay. Cry Me a River. Should I start the song out with Cry Me a River next week?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Do a little Cry Me a River. But no, that's going to wrap it up. Good fun here. And, again, not to rehash, but, the scroll says it all, right? We'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Definitely hit us up on social media, whether it be on IG or the Gram, Facebook, Twitter. Love to hear your comments on, especially, does the time fit the crime, right? As they say.
Did you say
right?
the Gram?
The Gram.
Is that the new name? Look at you getting all fancy.
I don't know. I was reading something and they said the Gram. So yeah, if I'm speaking out of turn, I may be speaking for my old age, right? But I think old age is the Instagram, right? Do you have the Instagram? I feel like the Progressive commercial. But anyways, hit us up, on Instagram. Hit us up on Twitter, Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. Go to the website, owsports.net. You can leave comments there as well. And once again, we forgot to go to the mailbag. Good thing, no new ones, but we do have some old ones that now are starting to get really old. And we'll have to go to the mailbag. We do apologize. But for my co-host, Stevie D, I'm Vince.